Hi and welcome to today's video tutorial. Today I have a knitted vest for you guys. So here I have made it in some different sizes so you can, I hope, get an idea of how many stitches you want, but it doesn't matter what your stitch count is as long as it's an equal number. So here you can see the yarn that I'm using and my knitting needles. So I have two different sizes. I have a 3mm and a 3.5mm. So I'm going to start with the smallest one, so the 3mm knitting needle, and I'm going to start with this pink color yarn. So here I'm just taking out a big piece to make all of my little loops where we're gonna make our little loops that we're gonna knit for our vest. So here I'm just making a little knot. And taking my 3mm hook or needle. So here I'm just showing you the way that I make the loops. This is just the way my grandma taught me. There's many ways to make them. If you have another way that you do them, just go ahead and do that. But here you can see the way that I'm making them. And I'm making a total of 144 loops, just so you know the size that I'm gonna be doing. But you go ahead and chain however many you want. So now I've changed all of the loops that I'm in need, and I'm going to connect it because we're gonna be knitting around. So just make sure that it's not twisted, as I'm making sure of here. And then you're gonna go into the very first where you did, which actually is just a knot, and pull the yarn through from the front side, or for the back side, but you go in from the front side with your needle and pull it through. And you're gonna do that with the next also, and this is a knit stitch. So we're gonna do rib. So now you have these two loops, that is 2 knit stitch, and then we're gonna do 2 purl. So just pull the yarn to the other side, to the front side, and do as I'm showing you. And that is the sequence we're gonna do all around. Here I'm just making sure that it's not twisted. So that was 2 purl, you can see the difference. So then we're going to do 2 more knit stitch and then 2 purl and so on, all the way around. So here I finished the first row of the rib. So we're back where we connected it. You can see where the little tail is. So we're just going to do the same. So over the knitted stitch we're going to do knitted stitch, and over the purl stitch we're going to do purl stitch. So we create the rib rows. And we're going to just continue to do that. And I made my rib for 9 rows, but you can do yours longer or shorter if you prefer that. That's totally up to you. So I just did 9 rows of the rib stitch, and it looks like this. So now we're gonna take the hook. This is a size bigger. and we're going to be knitting over to that because we just do the rib stitch on a smaller hook. But I'm going to show you that in a second. So here I'm taking the red yarn and making a knot just in the end. So now for the next round we're going to insert the red thread, and we can see where the first round is by the tail, and we're going to be working over to this thicker needle. So I'm just doing the first. So now I'm taking the yarn and just putting the little loop on and tightening it, so it just create this little stitch or knot, and pulling that through. So now we have our first red loop, and we're just gonna work that. So now after securing the red yarn, we're gonna do the rest of the vest and just knit stitch. So that's why I'm doing knit stitch to the red yarn as well, even though it's across to the purl stitches. So I'm making 2 red stitches and 2 pink stitches, and when you can see the way I'm holding it, and I'm just ignoring the other one when I do, as here I do the pink stitch, so the red thread is just behind. It's really easy to make it as striped, anything really. And this is just what and I'm just gonna finish off the round, still getting it over to the bigger needle. So now we just have it on the big needle, and we're gonna work the rest of the vest onto this. So now for the next row we're just gonna do red on red and pink on pink. So just knit stitched all the way, just doing the same. So we make these lovely stripes. See, this is what it's going to look like. So now I'm done with the first part of the vest. Because it looks a little bit funny on the inside, and here just marked where the half of the stitches is, because we're going to close some up to make the top part. So we're going to close 6 stitches. So 3 before this green thread and 3 after. So I'm just going to show you here how I do that. So I was the first 3, and then we're gonna do 3 more. And I'm just closing red over red and pink over pink. So now we have that gap closed, and that's gonna be the beginning of the armpit hole. So now the rest we're just gonna knit as we normally would over to we reach the other green thread, and then we're gonna close 6 again, just like I showed you. So now I'm almost at the closing part. So now we're gonna knit first one side and then the other. I don't know if that makes sense, but it will in just a second. So now we have these 2 openings. So here we're gonna be knitting this side separately and this side separately. And we're gonna knit the side where the yarn is attached first. So what I just did was I put a helping needle, the first one we did, into the loops of the side we're not gonna work. As you can see, it's a bit difficult to see, but I'm trying to show you, just to hold the stitches. So we have the 3.5mm hook only holding the stitches of the side we're gonna work. So now we're gonna knit on the back side, we're gonna do purl stitches, and on the front we're gonna do normal knit stitches. And I'm making 2 decreases in the first row before going ahead and just doing purl stitches. So now here we have 4 stitches, and we're just gonna also close those or decrease both of them. Now here we have the second row. Here we're just gonna do knit stitches. So this is the easiest row. And here I'm also doing decrease, just 1 in both sides. So now we just go ahead and just normal knit stitch to the end until you have 2 loops left. And then decrease that. So here I am on the 3rd row, still doing a decrease. It's really difficult to see, but I just did 1 decrease, and we're going to do that in both sides before just knitting it purl stitch all the way. So purl stitch and 1 decrease in the end. So now we've done a total of 4 decreases in the first 3 rows. So it looks like this. So now we're just going to be knitting back and forth just by doing purl stitches in the back side, and in the front side we're going to do normal knit stitches and no more decreases. So when you've done that, I'm just marked here. In the top I have 24, 26, I don't quite remember, stitches here in the middle, and you're just gonna leave whatever is left in the sides, and there's gonna be your shoulders. So we're gonna close off the space between the blue threads, which is gonna be the hole for our neck or head. So just knitting the first stitches here. And here after the blue thread where I marked it, I'm just closing up the middle stitches, and then we're gonna work one shoulder and then the other. And here after I'm done closing the middle stitches, I'm just making sure I have the right count, and then we just knit them as normal knit stitching. So now done with the first row, I'm gonna knit the shoulder where the yarn is attached first. So it's just purl stitches, There we have the first row is purl stitches, and we're gonna do a decrease in the end, so closest to the neck hole. So we're gonna make that a bit bigger that way. And then on the normal knit stitch sides, we're just gonna do knit it as normally with no decreases. So it looks like this, and we're gonna do that. So we're gonna do the sequence we just did 3 more times, so you have a total of 4 increases. And then you have something that looks like this. So now we're just gonna close off the shoulder. And here I'm just closing red over red and pink over pink. And then you're just cutting them off and just making a knot so it's secured. You're just going to repeat what I just did on the other shoulder, and then the first side is done. And when you're done with the first side, you're just going to do the same on the back here. So when you're done that, you have something that looks like this, maybe. So now we're gonna do our rib in the armpit and in the top head hold. I don't know what to call it, neckline. So here, to figure out how long I need the rib to be, how many I need to chain, I'm just measuring using my bottom rib, and for my arm I have 92 stitches I chained up, and for the neckline I have 72, and in the neckline I did 10 rows, and in the armpit I did 6 rows, and then it looked like this. I just love these colors. So first off, we're gonna just sew these together. You can do this by hand stitching or doing it on a sewing machine. And then we're just gonna attach it to this vest. First, I'm just gonna sew the shoulder seams together. So I'm just pinning that up, lining the stripes up so we get a clean, beautiful edge or gathering. That's what it's called. You can also just sew this in hand if you don't have a sewing machine. That doesn't really matter. So when that's done, you're just gonna line it up like I'm showing you here. Put it on the inside so we get the seam to be on the wrong side, and we're just gonna pin that together and then sew it together, and then the vest is done, and it looks something like this. I want to thank you so much for watching. It means